county. Another one is I might own a vacation home in your county, but I don't vote. And potentially a parent, maybe that, can we have parents open enroll into Brown County?
Yes.
Is there any
Yes.
of those? So, in all cases, we remove the non-residents from the funding support question. We also have representation from all the townships that make up the county.
Yeah.
With Washington being the highest and Van Buren being the lowest. We had 13% of our sample were employees and 30% were parents. And we had one question on communication: how would you like to receive school or district information? Here we took the staff out completely because we know we can communicate with the staff in different ways. We then broke it into two different groups. The light blue are the parents. Their number one preference by far is email, followed by going to the website, and then they'll take a phone notification. The non-parent, non-staff, they read the Brown County Democrat over half, 56%, and then it drops down to Facebook at 22, the website at 22, newsletters at 20. So the Brown County Democrat is that's fairly well read for a paper, at least in our experience. So, way to go. We had one overall satisfaction question: how would you like, how likely would you be to recommend the district to a friend or family member? You can see the breakdown from extremely unlikely, we had 5%, to extremely likely, we had 20%. With the most often occurring response was in a neutral. That gave you an average of 6.66. Our software, we do have the ability to go out and compare you to similar school districts, and you're a little bit below the average there. At 7.09. Again, all the information that was in the survey is also in this report. So we shared some background information that show that your school tax rates are very low in the state as compared to your neighbors. We then went into the funding for operations. Again, the background information that you're familiar with. We then asked the question: would you support renewing the current referendum to maintain programs, services, and compensation? We now broke it into 3 mutually exclusive subgroups. Now this is kind of important because right now our data set is overrepresented with staff, overrepresented with parents, and we underrepresent the non-parent, non-staff. So to remove any bias, we break it into these 3 groups. So if you're a staff member, you can only be a staff member, even if you're a staff and a parent, you constitute staff. And 93% of the staff said they were on board, with only 3% saying no. The parents were at 87%, with 8% saying no. And the most important group, we call them the purple people, the non-parent, non-staff residents. They're the most important because they literally get the most votes. So as a board, as you look at the data, you have to put more weighting on this group's responses than the other 2. So we did that for you. And so what we did for the sake of this was the staff represents less than 1% of your community, so we removed that for the sake of this analysis. The staff is very important because they talk to parents, their friends, their neighbors every day, and if they're not on board, you've got problems, but you don't. Your staff is clearly in support. We then assumed about 25% of your population are parents, and about 75% fall into that non-parent, non-staff group. Assuming that weighted average, we then calculated and came out at 79.5%, which is phenomenal, quite honestly. We're doing about 50 projects like yours this semester, and this is probably some of the highest support we've seen anywhere. So that's very encouraging. We then go on to assess this funds for the adult education programming in the CRC. Same format. Staff is still strongly on board, a little less, 81 to 12%. Parents are strong support at 76 to 15. And our non-parent, non-staff, our purple people held there at 75%. Same analysis, assuming 75% split. We ended at 75.2% support for the adult education CRC. And we tested one other plan, and this would expand the operational referendum by 2 cents for staff compensation. Now, staff is clearly on board with this at 85%. Parents are at 79%. And our non-parent, non-staff, they dropped down a bit to 64%, clearly still a majority. And the same analysis, we're at 67.7% for that additional funding for staff compensation. If in the event that that would not be supported, we did ask questions around on cost-cutting options. Now, if everybody here would have said, yes, we need to cut that, it would be a 10. If everybody said, we can't cut that, no, it'd be a 1. So if you take 10 plus 1 divided by 2, you end up with a median of 5.5. So when you look at these numbers, if any of these numbers were to be above 5.5, one could argue that that's something that subgroup believes we should be cutting. Now, in your case, none of these items that we tested came up with support for cutting. So the delaying curriculum updates, that was arguably the least supported, but still was well below that 5.5 level. So even that, folks still they don't want you to be doing that. So that is your survey report. So let me pause and answer questions.
Bill, I have a question about the number of participants who took the survey. So it seems like a low number for you to be very confident that in fact was a high number of people taking the survey. Can you just talk through that?
Yeah, so if you open up a USA Today newspaper, you'll see many surveys, and you'll see typically a 400 or 500 number response to their whatever question it is that they're answering. So from a statistical standpoint, when you get to about 400 or even 500, you're at a margin of error plus or minus 5%. When you get up to your numbers around 1483, it drops down. And we've done this with larger districts. You can watch it, and if you were to double, if you were to go from 1400 to 2800, your responses would change by at most 1%. They just don't move anymore. You should have a very high level of confidence in this data. The other thing is, based on there's really two other things. There's a very high correlation between those who take the survey and those who vote, because we used to ask that question on our survey. You typically vote in elections, and it was 93% would say yes. The other thing that this one you have to think about it a little bit more, but the people who took the survey have an opinion. Those who don't know, don't care, probably aren't going to vote. But the ones who took the survey, they're out talking to their friends and neighbors about, this is really needed. This is really important. They take the survey and they influence their friends and neighbors. Now, they might not be supportive. They might be supportive. But these are people who are engaged. So it tends to draw out the people who are, and there's a lot of research done. It's about 1 out of 10 in your community. So think about the mom that's in the vestibule in the morning that doesn't leave. If she's talking about whether or not this is a good, the principal's doing a good job, or the dad who's on the sideline of the football game walking up and down, he doesn't sit down, he's talking about whether or not the coach is doing a good job. So those are the kind of the influentials. Those are the people who weigh in and actually participate in taking the survey because they have opinions, and they tell other people what they're thinking. So having done almost 1,000 of these community surveys like yours, this data ends up being very, very predictive. It doesn't always end up being as positive as yours, but it's very predictive.
I think the board, if you have any questions, I think at this time we would allow anybody in the audience to ask questions as well. This is our time with school perceptions to you have questions about any of the data?
Will we be getting this in a written form, in a report?
Yes, you will, and I think the goal would be to put this on your website, so it's, because I think we committed to doing that, it should be available to the whole county. I know this is the first time you've seen it tonight, so it's kind of hot off the presses, but no, you should all get a copy, and you should all also make that available to the public.
Can we get it in Democrat?
Yeah, we can put something out, yes.
I'm glad to see people read the Democrat, actually. We don't have a lot of modes of communication in a rural county like this, so our weekly paper does serve a really large purpose, so I'm glad to see people want to see that. I've had people ask me a lot, like, why don't you have more in the Democrat? So I think that's something for us to take into account more generally as well. Do you want to go back to any of the particular slides to look at certain numbers? I wondered if you could, just move through those again up to the number who are supportive and the number who aren't, because I think we went through this kind of fast.
Okay, for the first project, we had 87% of parents and 77% of non-parent, non-staff. Very high numbers.
And so we think that non-parent, non-staff are probably largely our retiree population then?
They are, I suspect, well, they're probably your older folks, because we had a large population of seniors that responded. And by definition, they don't work in the district nor have kids in the district, and probably haven't been in the schools for at least a while. So that was nearly 80% support. And then we've got the, let's see, this is for the CRC and adult educational programming. Again, 81% of staff, 76% of parents, and 75% of the non-parent, non-staff. That came in at 75.2%. And then expanding by 2 cents, 85% of staff, 79% of resident parents, and 64% of non-parent, non-staff.
So that last one, obviously, there's more of a dip. Any thoughts on why that is?
Well, it's a little bit more money. So that's what you want. I've got a dog in my office. Let me move it out for a second. So it's more money, so you would expect that anytime, I think the 8 cents is just to renew what you've been doing. The 2 cents is a little bit more, so I think in some people's mind, maybe the 8 cents was enough. But I think, I believe that people believe that what the additional 2 cents would do is provide competitive compensation is important. So it did drop, but it still held up pretty well overall to the 67.7%.
So that's how you come up with just how you figured that average, correct?
That's right. So in this case, we didn't count staff at all. We counted staff, and it would actually go up a little bit, but the staff was less than 1% of your community, so they don't get a lot of votes. And the non-parent, non-staff, they just get a lot more votes than your parents. So you hear from your parents, pretty much every day. But it's those folks that have no connection with the school. They're the ones that are going to dictate whether they're not going to be successful.
And in your experience, when you have numbers like these, and then you compare it to then a vote that happens later, how predictive do you think these numbers are?
Yeah, good question. So in states where we have high turnout or have done this many, many times, so in the state of Wisconsin, we're a Wisconsin-based company, we're 94% predictive. in the state of Minnesota, we're 100% predictive so far. We haven't been wrong in more than about 86 projects in the state of Minnesota. We haven't done many in Indiana though, so you're new. But the methodology and process has been used almost 1,000 times. And it's very, very predictive. I think you should have confidence in the data.
Does anybody in the audience have any questions for school perceptions? Okay. Questions from the board? All right. Well, I really, really appreciate this information. It is, as I said, I often say when we have races in Brown County, we don't have polling. Like it's always sort of, well, everybody I talked to said yes or no, and we don't really have data. So I'm really pleased to have some data for us to work from so that we can make a decision and feel confident in it. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure working with your team. Great people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Good night.
Good night. Thank you. All right. Any other thoughts or comments from the board? All right, well, I guess there's a lot to think about. All right, we're going to move on. There's no discussion, and now going to number 6, approval of the public session minutes from November 20th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
And is there any discussion? So we're going to vote, and because Emily is cataloging the vote tonight, we're going to do all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those in opposed? Motion carries. Action needed items. We have a recommendation to approve Noah Reynolds to be compensated $10 an hour during the 23-24 school year as a student auditorium worker. This is for working sound and lights at the Brown County Schools events. Is there a recommendation from the board to approve this action?
So moved.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Glad we have one board to do this, aren't you, Jackson?
Yay, more work.
It's a lot of work. We know that it is, so I'm glad that we can have somebody and just keep training more people to do it. So, all right, let's take votes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, II here is recommendation to approve the donation of $500 to Brown County High School Theater Department from Donna Ormiston. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes, I appreciate
Thank
Donna
you.
doing this.
Yes. Thank you, Donna. Any other discussion? Let's do lost my words. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Number 8 is our consent agenda items for personnel, starting with separations of Brown County High School IT security, Samantha Walker, effective November 29th, 2023, through number 4, Brown County High School business teacher Camby Lewis, who's being hired in full-time with benefits, effective November 27th, 2023, as a replacement for Diane Smith. And she has a pending emergency license. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? I'll say that I'm very sorry to lose Samantha. She was one of my cadets back in the day, but I'm really glad to see her move on to something bigger, and that's great. And I'm glad to have Camity on board as a teacher. Anybody else? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, and now we're to superintendent's report.
Yeah, I want to publicly, like at a future board meeting, we will bring forth the donation from Mike Bird and the Masonic Lodge. I was fortunate to get the opportunity to attend their ceremony this past Saturday, and they were the organization that had reached out and asked if they could park cars in the parking lot during the month of October, and they donated $1,051 to unpaid student lunches. So Saturday I got to receive that check, and just really proud to be a part of that collaboration with them. I want to thank School Perceptions and the team that all helped put that survey together and get it out, get the word out, and so ensure people would fill it out. I assume as soon as I get the results for that presentation in paper form, I will pass that on to the board. We will get it on the website. We'll work to write an article about it for the Democrat, and continue to communicate those results. I also just want to add that we do have a petition that is going around the county in support to have the board put the referendum on the May ballot. We legally have to have a minimum of 500 signatures before the board is authorized to make a motion to put it on the May ballot. So it is on a green piece of paper. It is not online. You have to physically sign your name. So if you need to sign a petition or know anyone that would like to sign a petition, call any one of the buildings or central office. We've got a lot of people out and about in the community with petitions to sign. And then, goodness, we've only got a couple weeks before we get to take a break. I was able to see the middle school and high school choir performance Saturday afternoon, which is always fun to see. You could never really tell sometimes if some of them were middle school or high school students because they were all mixed together, and I thought that was pretty cool as well. So excited for them. And then next week we have all 3 elementary school programs here in the Brown County High School auditorium. So we'll get to celebrate those kids and their hard work. And then our Brown County Schools band concert is next Wednesday. So excited to see those kids as well. That's all I have.
Great. Is there anything from the board that anyone would like to add?
Well, Wednesday, is it, that the cops and teachers are playing basketball for Stop the Cops?
Yes, it is this Wednesday. And I will also add, thank you for reminding me of that. Kelly Bruner, they have a 5th grade classroom that I believe are finalists in a Bill of Rights contest, and they're right after the basketball game. They are coming in here actually to have pizza and a viewing party to see if they've actually won.
Wow.
So anybody that's coming to the basketball game, just keep your fingers crossed for our kids at Helmsburg that they win that.
And I'll add that I know at the Playhouse there has been the play The Christmas Story, which has a lot of our kids in it. And I think they had 2 sets, a red team and a green team. So each group of kids gets to do 4 performances, and I'm just really excited.
That's really nice.
I hear that they're kicking it, so I'm going to see that next week. And that's on for 2 more weekends if anybody wants to go see that at the Playhouse and support our kids doing theater there. So. Anything else? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Let's head out. Thank you.